Okay, let's go live. Here we go. That music is obnoxiously loud, no? There we go. Okay, here's hoping all of that works. Good evening, everybody. Oh, I should go on to my social media and tell people I'm live. Stand by. Here we go. Okay, that's one. Let's go on the Instagrams. Bop. Bop. Hey, how come I can't just post this stupid thing to my stories? That's dumb. Oh, duh. There's a button. Hey. There we go. Okay, is everything working? I think everything's working. Right? Everything's working? I hope everything's working. Music keeps switching up on me every time I turn on the controls. So I'm going to bump this up a little bit like this. Lucky number 13 for the music. I know, you guys should be genuinely proud of me that I managed to get everything up and running. Alright, what did I promise the last time that we were here? First part of the stream is me giving page updates with spoilers. And then I get to draw, yeah? But first, I get to say everybody that's on stream. I get to say hey. So, I need more coffee. Okay, let me say hello to everyone. Peter, hello. Martin Morrison, hello. Chauncey, how are you? Delano, how are you? Unhinged, it's nice to see you again. Strike Boy, hello. Everything Shivers, good evening, or evening my time. Billy, how are you? Thank you for being here, and thank you for that hashtag. That's really super awesome. Slurping on my streams is your stick. I'll pay you dividends. Delano, how are you? Rob, how are you, sir? WAF, how are you? What does WAF stand for? Winged attack. Winged attack fighter. Very military. Okay, can we get into the few updates or? Hello, Scott. How are you? Good evening. Giuliano, how are you? Hey, Jules, can you do me a favor? Will you text me or will you message me the most recent pages that you're working on? That way I can include it in the update today. Is that possible? Or would you rather hold on to it for next time? No pressure. You can totally hold on to it. Because the first part of this stream, I'm trying to update people on. I'm trying to update people on the stuff that we're working on. And it would be great if I can include your stuff. As I settle in. Weird. There we go. Your initials, or we up? I won't say that word. I just came back from church, and that's not allowed. That's a no-no word in my religion. Hello, Bal. How are you? Okay, we'll hold off showing off pages as far as color is concerned. Jules has actually turned a handful in. Where did I leave off? Apologies for me not being able to pronounce your name, but I am not as sophisticated to be able to read a foreign language. So, hello and thank you for being here. Okay, so can we get into a bit of story time and what took me away for about a week and a half? I live in the Pacific Northwest, and there happened to be an unscheduled, the kookiest ice storm, and everybody that I've spoken to reassures me that that has never happened here before. Ever, ever, ever. In the history of weather, apparently, it's never happened to me before, or it's never happened in this area before. Lo and behold, it does happen. It just happens when I officially move up here. And I was pretty much iced in, but more importantly, I was without power for about 6 days, which doesn't seem like it's that much of a challenge until you consider that the temperature was, forgive me, everywhere else on the planet, but I'm going to talk in Fahrenheit as opposed to Celsius. I don't know how to do the conversion. But I was stuck indoors at about 30 degrees Fahrenheit. You do the conversion for me, please. And so I had to deal with that with no power. Luckily enough, the gas didn't stop running, so I managed to make do with a fireplace. But it didn't come back on for about 6 days, going on 6.5 days. And even then, the internet was a little bit spotty, so I've been away. And I am remorseful. I feel bad. Thank you for being here and joining me again. And there you go, rest of the world. I was dealing with -1 Celsius. Who knew? Anyway, I'm so very grateful to be back. So very grateful to you're joining me. I'm going to cross my legs. But I have to use hands because I'm old now. Let's see, what else is there? What can I update you on? Oh, I get to... one of the things that, again, as far as strategy is concerned, and I think I spoke about this very briefly the last time, only to realize that I was on the wrong microphone feed. Forgive. And I'm a Japanese person with poor English. I like your painting. Your English sounds fine. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your company. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. What was I saying? A part of the strategy in order to get more attention to me doing Athena down the way, which is Q3 of 2021, that's about August, September, is to get my name out in circulation again, because I'm not the big name that some comic book illustrators, some comic book creators maybe. So one of the things that was suggested to me by a very helpful friend, I would say, a fellow by the name of Jimmy Palmiotti, who's run multiple, who has run multiple crowdfunding campaigns. He said, Eric, because not your name isn't in circulation as much as it could be in comics, you should go out there and see if you can get a cover work here and there. And I said, sure. So I reached out to a handful of friends. I think the last time that I streamed, I showed you guys the cover that I did for IDW. So thank you to my good friends over there, and most especially Mark Irwin, who is a huge proponent of my work. Thank you very much, Mark. The second cover, which I'm about to show you, is done for a good friend by the name of Scott Snyder for his book called Noctera, right, with Tony Daniel, and I'll show you the value painting for that, or the value drawing for that. As a matter of fact, instead of talking about it, can we just get started? Yeah, can we just get started? Okay, here we go. And if I can find it, that would be so awesome. Okay, so I'll walk you through the process. You guys see that okay? Yeah, that's pretty legible. Okay, so this is the thumbnails that I had sent to Scott. And I'll give you a small little aside as to a funny coincidence how things worked out. Okay, so this is the thumbnails that I sent to Scott, and his note to me was between 1, 2, and 3. He said, let's go with option 1, the one on the far left there, because I think they'd had enough alternate covers for this series that depicting the main character in action, right? So I said, yeah, totally cool. And then as I started rendering it, it dawned on me that I effectively did something similar for my previous cover assignment on G.I. Joe and for IDW, which is, this upshot of Serpentor, which is super weird. Like, they both picked upshots, and they both picked, underlighting, So I thought, oh gosh, two covers could quite possibly come out side by side. They have underlighting, but I didn't pick, So I left it to the client. The client said, hey, I want that sweet, sweet underlighting. Okay, so this is what I showed them, right? This is what I showed them as far as thumbnails is concerned. This is what it ended up turning out to be in grayscale. I don't know if you guys can, that's very clear. I really did everything that I could to de-emphasize that butt. I know that seems sacrilegious to some of you, but I just know the way the comic book environment is now. You just know it just takes one dum-dum to make, to make it more of a big deal than it needs to be. I'm opting for a dramatic shot. There's inevitably an idiot out there going like, oh, look, Eric's just drawing butts. Whatever. Okay, so that's the grayscale version. And then here is the color. Does that make sense? Again, de-emphasizing that butt as much as possible. So that was cover assignment number 2, and that took me away from Athena pages, but I thought it was well worth, because again, it's an investment in, oh gosh, what's the word that I keep using? Just like, awareness for my work and awareness for me in general, because again, I'm not in the comic book scene all that much. How many people have I missed? Tiberius says, your work in general is awesome. An extra thanks for your work on Tron Uprising. Thank you. That was such a fun show to work on. Although I got to tell you, all the heavy lifting for that show was primarily done by my good friend and art director, Alberto Mielgo. So if you have anyone to thank, it's Alberto. I just storyboarded it. He wanted that ass shot. I think he did. I think if there's anything attractive about this image, it's the potential of sneak peek ass cheeks. That rhymed. I feel like Fragaboom. Speaking of Fragaboom, how are you, Dan? Welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining us. Been a while since I've seen an Eric Kennedy live. Let's go. Love your work and demeanor. Thanks, Sean Kelly. 2 first names, though. That makes me weary. It's like Bruce Wayne. Can't trust him. Don't do that to yours. Big, healthy butts. You got it. You got it, Rob. As much butt as a 11 by 17 piece of paper can handle. Oh, it's not me afraid of the butts, Billy. It's definitely not me. Deviant, how are you? You had to de-butt the cover? I had to de-butt. I had to definitely de-butt. I found your work in Run, Love, Kill First. Been following ever since. Thank you so much, Isaac. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate that. I can't believe the times we live in where they don't like the behind. Listen, I don't know if they wouldn't have. I'm sure everybody in this room has a level of appreciation for it. Bella especially, she likes butts. But I know everybody in this room has a general appreciation, not just for the tail end, but also because it's just me drawing. You know what I mean? But people get stupid sometimes, man. Seth MacFarlane. The Gams angle. Yep, 100%. Hello, Black Rose. How are you? Is Sean Bean's name Sean Bon? How's it going, Jim Cox? When it's Eric's character in Athena, I'm sure we'll get plenty of booty. Oh, 100%. 100%. See, confirmed. Belle really loves that butt. Dan, I suspect that a part of me wants to say what that AATT or AAT means, but that's your thing and I can never pull it off, so forgive me. First time I ever saw Eric drawing. Oh, it was on Periscope. Oh, right on. Been following ever since. I appreciate that. Okay, so that's one part that took me away, is getting these covers done. But now they're off of the table, all nice and finished. And then, well, I can't talk about the thing that I also need to finish before in about 5 days. That freelance is a bit under wraps, but I did that not necessarily for the eyeballs and Arthena, but I did it because it was a good friend of mine, a director over at Warner Brothers, reached out to me and said, like, hey, can you storyboard a segment of this thing that I'm working on? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I thought I could help a pal out. I always like working with him, so. End of this week, but that got waylaid, obviously, because of the ice storm and me being away without power. Can we get into the pages now? Okay, where was I? Can I show you guys the 3D model? Can I share with you the 3D model? For the Divana statue? It's pretty freaking awesome. They finished it, all said and done, and I will share with you using my screen share. Ready? Can you guys see that okay? Okay. See, look. Whee. There you go. So she's all done. We are printing her now. And now I can show you, how much time do we have? Oh, look, I'm ahead of schedule by way of like, I typically burn an hour. Did I show you this page that Jules did? Look at this monster. Look at Giuliano, like, earning every cent. Holy mackerel, doesn't that look awesome? Jiminy's, he's so dang good. And it's rare that I ever have to, like, my notes are so minuscule nowadays, as in contrast to when we first started. Like, he just, you know, and there's times when he goes back into a page. He told me, he's like, Eric, I want to go back and re-render page 1 and 2. And I'm like, don't get crazy. But I love the fact that he is so into it that he's like, yeah, I can think I can do that better. All right, so we are now in issue 3. Did I miss anything? Oh yeah, so this is the kind of stuff that he sends me. He just sent me this yesterday. And I just make notes on it. You know what I mean? Like, I do really, really quick. I don't know if you can, yeah, so here are the, let me merge this down. Here is what he sent me, right? And I just make notes on it by grabbing things on using my iPad and just adjusting it just a little bit. And man, he turns it around in like 2 minutes. He adjusts everything in about a couple minutes, sends it to me again, and I sign off on it and I say, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. Now I can walk you through the most recent pages, even though luckily I wasn't completely the house that I'm in was completely out of power, but I managed to get down the hill to a place that did have power, and I'd plug in my iPad and work on the pages as much as I could, with the challenges of not being in an environment that I'm 100% comfortable with, right? So I'll show you the page that I finished. Where did I leave off? All right, you guys tell me how much of this you guys have seen so far. Right, I think you saw this top area on my Instagram here with the giant mecha, right? Oh, by the way, heads up, spoilers. Sorry. I feel awful. And if you guys are this is issue 3, so if you guys are not wanting to see any of this stuff, heads up, spoilers. Anyway, I tried to stay as productive as I could, even with all of those challenges, weather condition challenges. Yeah. I'll flip through them very quickly. Oh, some of these I haven't turned off the underdrawing yet, so forgive me. There you go. I just finished this page this afternoon. Ooh, I need to work on that mouth. That looks awful. Yeah, can I work on that right now so I don't forget? Because I typically will. Ooh, what did I do? Whoops. Hey, better. Whew. I'm gonna have to get over it, or else I'm gonna end up redrawing everything. Okay, good. Hey, good enough. I'm over it. Can you guys tell that I have very little sort of like preciousness about my pages? Like, I don't get hung up on I always think of it as, if you think about how many pages Athena issue per issue is 40 pages times 5, that's easily, 240 pages times 5. 220 pages? 200 pages? A little bit more, a little bit less? Well, issue 1 and issue 5 have 8 to 10 extra pages each. So yeah, about 220 pages total, not counting covers. I do not have time to get overly caught up in making sure every panel is pretty. There's instances, and I think as a general rule of thumb, if you guys are doing comic book pages, and I think if Dan is still in chat, he can probably back me up on this. I don't know if he has the same belief as me. But in any given page, I always pick the panel that I'm going to plus up the most. Okay, that's the panel that everyone, I think that's the panel that I'm going to put a good amount of time and effort. But for the most part, the rest of them, I just kind of go okay, I'm moving on. It's similar to when I'm storyboarding. There's sections in the stuff that I'm storyboarding that I'm really super into, and I really make sure that everything reads so that when it goes to the animation studios overseas, they know exactly what I'm going for. The rest of it, it's kind of, it's in third gear, But there are some panels that I deliberately pick out to be I call it the 5th gear panel, where I shift it into that space, and I'm okay, I'm going to really plus this bad boy up. So, late for me, great artwork. Oh, hey man, thank you so much. You have a great evening. Thank you for visiting. Thank you for joining me. What'd I miss? I'm going to scroll up. I'm being a bad streamer. I'm going to hope that all these fires are for that sculpt, and thank you so much. Nice normals. Looks like a very efficient sculpt. Yep, I think so too. You would hold her tightly. I think, Rob, the more we talk about it, the more we say, the more you suggested, you should make that available to purchase for later, right? I think that's a pretty good idea, but I don't know how I make that sustainable. You know what I mean? If 50 people purchase it, I'm oh, I'm so screwed, because I'm 3D printing the ones that we're giving away as the email sign up, or the newsletter sign up incentive, So I don't know how I'm going to be able to mass produce it beyond just those 3. So that is sweet. Thank you so much. Are you printing one for yourself and or me? I'm not even thinking about printing one for me. I don't know. What would I do with it? It'd be sitting on my counter, I guess. SDA, how are you? Good evening. Giuliano, those art pages are stunning. They truly are. The guy is a monster, and I'm so glad he's on the team. You're asking me to remember something from longer than a day. Yeah. Thank you, Martin. I appreciate that. Nice gutters. Yeah, that was an active effort on my part. That set of scenes is somebody being mind probed, and I needed to show that sort of, in movies you always see, or even in TV, you always see these blurry edges or whatever when somebody's digging into your mind. So that was my effort to show, in contrast to the rest of the book, that something weird was going on there, Eric, I want you and Rocafort to do something together. You guys are amazing. He doesn't need me. Kenneth Rocafort can conquer the world on his own. He doesn't need me holding him back, but it would be fun for sure. Okay, I'm going to draw now because that's 30 minutes. Wow, I only burned 30 minutes talking about stuff. I'm so close. I hope that's okay. I hope you guys can see that all right. This was super tricky to deal with because, every scene hereafter, again, spoilers, every scene hereafter is this interrogation scene where one of the main protagonists is hanging upside down. And so I had to like, at first when I was drawing it upside down, I was like, man, this looks freaking awesome. I was quite happy with myself. And then I flipped it around and I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's a mess. So I had to redraw it again. So, oh, there you go. Here's what it looks like right side up. Anyway, I'm going to draw. I was working on this panel, went to panel 2 while I was listening to Rob's stream earlier, and that's why I couldn't join. I was really trying to optimize for as much time that I had. I feel like I'm playing catch up now that I've kind of been deterred by the ice storm. And so in as much as I would have loved to have jumped in during Rob's stream, I was just like, oh, I could do that, or I could finish this panel really, really quick. And I opted to finish the panel really, really quick. But I'm pretty happy with the effect of this, the effect of these trees in the rain, you know? Pretty happy with that. I don't know who I stole that from. Must have been Alex Raymond. Must have been. I'm not that original. Okay, I can just keep drawing, right? You guys are okay with me drawing and asking questions? Well, not me asking you guys questions, but you guys can ask me questions if you want. Yes? Okay, good. Playing catch-up is one of my nightmares. Because I always feel like I'm not... Well, it's twofold, right? One, I can say, I'm playing catch-up, so I'm not... If you think that I'm not precious with my pages when I'm working normally, imagine when I'm playing catch-up, right? When I'm playing catch-up, I am even less concerned about how pretty something looks. Because in my mind, I go like, you know, there's 40 some odd pages in each issue. If I get 10 of them right, I'll be pretty happy, you know? They don't have to be all... I think that's one of the things. I was listening to Perch, and he was talking about how people should, you know, more than anything else, in as far as making your own comics is concerned, more than anything else, getting hung up on like the perfect colorist, getting hung up on all of these things that may be secondary to the main task, which is just draw the comics, you know? And that really speaks to me in concept. I believe in that 100%, because rather than getting hung up on like, oh, I've got to make this panel perfect, I've got to make whatever else as clean as possible. Man, I ain't got time for that shit. I need to finish the page. And in finish, like, I feel like, at least for me, this may not be true for everybody, I feel like there's more value in the exercise of making comics by finishing rather than constantly revising, you know? Constantly be trying to be too precious about the pre-production of it all, right? I learned so much more just by doing and finishing, as opposed to, again, just talking about it and theorizing. And also, I made you guys a promise of getting everything done by late August, beginning of September. I don't have time to be precious about stuff. I just got to do enough to tell the story. And I think that's one of the things I learned from my storyboarding gigs. I used to be so caught up in making like the prettiest storyboard panel until you, this was back in the day, but until you realize that I have 300 3-panel storyboard pages to do, you know? I don't have time to be precious about any and all of it, as long as the action reads, right? And again, I take the time to slow down for specific panels to make it look pretty, but for the 9 times out of 10, or let's say 4 times out of 5, I'm zipping by those panels as quickly as possible. Which I think is totally counter to how some people work. I was just watching I don't know how Dave Finch stays on a monthly book. I just have no idea how he stays on a monthly book, because the amount of detail that guy just compacts into each and every single panel, I don't know how he does it. And it's with a level of preciseness that I can't seem to deal with. Like, I can't, it's not sustainable for me. Does he have an anchor? Dave Finch have a full-time anchor? Maybe that's how? But I've seen his pencils. They're pretty dang tight, you know? So for instance, a panel like this, I can see that the brush is underperforming by way of the marks that it's making, digital as it may be. Like it's all broken up and crusty and all that other stuff, right? But you have to realize that this page is, I'm zoomed in so tight on this dang page that by the time I zoom out, I mean, there's these old school X-Men pages that one of my favorite artists named Paul Smith drew. And sometimes he will do just enough to indicate features, you know what I mean? A couple of dashes for the eyes, a couple of dots for the nostrils, but it didn't make it any less effective, you know what I mean? And I think I'm chasing that now to not to get too overly precious about something because, again, no time. I admire anybody, including Dave Finch, who can do the sort of detail and noodly, I don't mean that to be in a negative way, but like noodly detail. I admire all of them for being able to do that. I can't. I can ask you a question. Okay. What's better, Bitcoin or Ethereum? Long term, short term, which one's better? It must be such a complex thing to deal with, being proud of the result and being able to deliver on time. That's really what I'm challenging myself with, assuming that this is I in my headcanon, I come up with these little challenges in how to do these pages and deliver in a short amount of time as opposed to taking a year, you know? Have I ever had Vegemite before? Not on purpose. Maybe accidentally. Would I know if I had Vegemite by accident? Is it so distinct in its taste that it's unmistakable? Eric, how do you encourage innovative ideas? Oh, what a great question. How do I encourage innovative ideas? The way things are designed nowadays, especially when it comes to real world, real life stuff, oftentimes form follows function, right? It's funny. I'll give you an example. Have you looked at a digital camera recently? Even the one that I'm dealing with right now, the Sony A5100, right? The lens is still in the middle, right? The two handles are still on each side, right? And the reason for that, when it was designed, form following function, right, is because back in the day, there would be a roll of film behind that lens, right, which would then have to pass, the film would then have to pass behind that lens in order for you to expose it long enough onto the film roll, and then it advances it one more frame forward. Makes total sense why the camera, as we have an understanding of it, why it's designed the way it is, right? Hey, why the hell is there Christmas music? Okay, hold on. It's freaking me out. But, and here's the thing, it's digital now, right? We have digital cameras. There's no more film advancing. There's no more anything that would facilitate holding on to the same form factor that we've gotten used to for generations on end, for decades, right? But why do we still do that, right? It's because we've now come to terms, or we've now come to an understanding that when something looks like this, it must be a camera, right? It must be a hand. There's no reason for cameras, especially if we're dealing with digital, for cameras to still look the way they do. No reason, right? We do it, the manufacturers do it, because it's what people have come to know as what a camera should look like. You know what I mean? The only thing that you would have to sort of accommodate is the mechanism behind the lens, but inside the camera, because it's all digital, no reason for a camera to look like that anymore. They just keep on doing it because it's what we've known for years. Point being, the way I challenge myself to do something innovative is to deconstruct how something has historically been designed, right? And understand why it's designed that way, and then go, okay, now that I have an understanding of why, I can break all of those rules and design it in such a way that's going to give you the same feeling as, let's say, a camera. Still have it read as a camera, but not be confined by a preconceived notion of it because of all the dogma that's associated with it. Does that make sense? Does that help? Okay, I hope so. You are precious, Eric. The indie scene is better for having your return to comics. Hey, thank you so much. I think Danny, Mickey, yep, that makes sense. That makes total sense. If anybody can handle all of that sort of noodly detail, it would be Danny Mickey. That's so freaking awesome. Mo Biggs, hello, how are you? I hear Vegemite tastes a bit like burning tires smell. Yikes, then I definitely would remember. And I don't think I had that. Glad you're back. Been drawing with my iPad more because of these streams. Thank you so much, Marcus. I hope you are getting the kind of results that you're looking for and or you're walking away with something learned. That's really awesome. Okay. What was I talking about previously? Screw it. I'll just keep inking, okay? I don't know when comics turned into such an exercise in detail. I don't understand when that became a prerequisite. Who did that? I blame Brian Hitch. I'm sure Brian would not appreciate that at all. I think there had been, I don't know when it switched. I don't know when drawing a ton of detail on a panel. Did Jim Lee draw a ton of detail on panels? I don't remember that at all. Maybe in my head, I had a preconceived notion of what comics looked like before Ultimates 1. And what it turned into after Ultimates 1. I mean, sure, McFarlane rendered things, right? Like, the crosshatch stuff never really, that's always been there since my overall affinity for modern comics. But was it always, like I remember drawing Rob's one of Rob's characters for Replicator, a character called Ghost. By the way, if you don't know about Rob's Indiegogo campaign, please go visit that now. It will be under, I think it's Replicator 3 in Indiegogo. You won't regret it. Art looks phenomenal, and Rob's busting his butt to make sure that you're aware that comic book is available to you. So please go show support. I'd certainly appreciate it. Consider it as a personal favor to me. Anyway, as I was saying, like as I was drawing that character, I remember all the little extra things that I did for the one image, right? Like even if we go back and take a look at Serpentor, even if we go and look at that Noctera image, like for the one image, I was putting so much stuff, like details and buckles and like all the other things that come with it, right? But that's a cover, you know what I mean? Like that it's almost like you want to go to the nth degree, or at least that's a single image. So you want to go to the nth degree of making that stuff look as detailed or as polished as possible, pretty as possible with detail. But I can't imagine doing it page in and page out. And there's some people who just do that. And it could quite possibly be the thing that allows you to draw 6 more pages without running into, drawing fatigue, because everybody does, right? But it's a matter of getting 6 more pages out of you as opposed to, just 5. It's a difference between drawing super detailed 5 or 6 pages versus drawing, 10, 11 pages of medium detail. You know what I mean? That seems like it still doesn't make much sense to me to draw that much detail. And to Belle's point, right, like, I don't think I draw all that much detail. I think I draw just the right amount in order for you to understand the story, in order for you to understand the texture. And if you really think about it, 75, 80% of the heavy lifting when it comes to this detail is being done by this fancy schmancy Procreate brush. I don't know. It is to say that we are the comic book, and maybe that helped to the. I'm thinking as I go here. Maybe that's helped to establish the expectation for comic books, and how much detail that you have to put in it before it can be considered to be like really well polished, you know. And I don't know if I'm 100% on board with that much detail in comics. I think it should be the appropriate amount of detail. Like if you need it to look like a rock, render it in such a way so that it looks like a rock. But at some point, yeesh. Far be it from me to tell a well-established, well-renowned, well-accomplished artist what the right amount of detail looks like. That's not up for me to decide. But I always think of it as like, man, you could be done with that page in 2 more if you just ramp down the detail a little bit. I don't know. It's not my place to tell somebody, you know, how and what to draw. I just think like, is the story better served with that much detail? Is it so much better that there are 20 lines as opposed to 10? Especially if you're talking about the economy of energy. I wonder what it feels like to be that hyper focused on detail. Like I saw, what the heck did I just see? Where I was just overwhelmed by. I think I told Ethan this offline. I saw one of the pages that he was working on, and I said, brother, you are insane to put this much line art and, you know, this much work. And that made me just appreciate that brain to be like, yeah, this is the brand. This is what this needs to look like. And I have such a level of admiration. Me talking about some people using a ton of detail is not me throwing shade at them at all. Not even in the slightest. It's more out of admiration that I say, holy crap, man. Look at all the stuff that you guys put. And I am nowhere near that meticulous? Is it meticulous? Is that the word? I am nowhere near that meticulous. But also, I think, and it's not for everyone, right? I think sometimes by putting that much detail into something, by rendering something to the, let's say, to the upper 80th percentile of rendering, right? Like, I feel like, oh, that's poor. I feel like, at least for me, in my experience with over rendering, when it comes to my own work, right? I feel like the energy dies. Does that make sense? Like I feel like it either gets stiff or the life just goes right out of it, you know? I don't know how you guys feel about that. I mean, it's not true for everyone, obviously. I'm saying in my personal experience from my own body of work, I feel like, yeah, when I over-render, it just becomes a stiff mess. Are you aware of the artist Jonathan Wayshak? He has that crazy kind of detail. It's beautiful. Oh yeah, I bet. I don't take anything away from the beauty of it. Anybody who can pull it off and pull it off well, I'm sure it looks beautiful. I'm saying, oh my gosh, calm down. You know, calm down with the detail. But it must do something for those artists, you know? They must really get off on seeing that much detail and having the image come to life based on that detail. That's where I think our values are different. There's an artist that I really super like. His name is Alex Raymond. Alex Raymond sort of helped inform Paul Smith, a former artist on X-Men from way back in the day. And there is an economy of rendering in Alex Raymond's stuff that I have such a huge affinity for. He has a series of books that got released based on a collection of these comic strips that he used to do called Rip Kirby. And I know the sort of subject matter is a bit, it's a bit dated, but look at the way that guy friggin' draws, man. Holy cow. And to me, that is the high bar of being able to render, like that's the high bar of how and when to render and how and when to leave stuff out. It's just because you understand everything, you understand, oh, there's the trees, there's the rain, there's the puddle on the ground. He just knew, and he did it all on like what must feel like, by the time all was said and done, I mean, I'm sure the originals was 3 times bigger, but like all of that work done on such a in an economy of space, which is awesome. I have different types of detail work. If I'm coloring it, there's usually less detail. If it's black and white, then I kind of overdo it. I try to hold back. Yeah, everyone has their process on how to mitigate that much work that goes into each and every page, but there's a balance for me anyway. I try to think of like, I look at the picture, I look at the page in total, and I go, how much time is any one reader going to be looking at this one panel? And then I move, and if it's like, oh, this is that panel, this is the feature panel, then I absolutely go to town. But when I know it's just going to be like, that, I need it to read like a funeral, and it needs to read like there's a coffin in the foreground. And as long as I land those things and it reads as those things, I think it's like job well done, and I move on to the next thing, What is the best way to keep your eye on future results? I don't know exactly what you mean, Chauncey. Future results. Sorry, man. I don't know. Welcome back, Strike Boy. Okay, I'm going to keep drawing. See, the fact that I'm zooming in right now is so detrimental to me just finishing this page. Like, I should not be zoomed in this tightly. Because this isn't even going to register later. I promise you. No one is going to be zoomed into this page going like, dude, did you just put a freaking cheekbone on him right now? Is that the best cheekbone you've ever done? Can I show you a funny little... I was thinking about the Barton brothers when I found this brush. It makes me laugh. And I will never be able to do it this well, but let me show you. This is so dumb. And I want to pass it on to either Corey or Clayton, because I know this is right in their wheelhouse. It's probably very, very unusable to them, but when I saw it, it made me laugh, because look at this. Oh, here, I'm going to lower the opacity of this. And I'll show you what the effect of the brush is. You guys ready? Look. Oh my God. Look how easy I just rendered that stupid curve. Oh, that makes me laugh. When I saw the brush, I go like, oh, isn't that how they render, like, not the Bartons, but like, all of this, I like to call it like the dash dot effect, Look at that. Woo. Isn't that a fun little brush? That makes me laugh. Here's the other one. And we're cross-hatched. We're good. We're good on the cross-hatching. We're good. That made me laugh when I saw it. Shoot, late again. Good day to you, Mr. Kennedy. Hello, everyone. How are you, Renan? Cartoonist Kayfabe did an episode about Rip Kirby Artist Edition. Yeah, absolutely. Well worth the money. I don't know what that Artist Edition is going for, but the earlier prints of I think it's Volume 1, was a bit on the rougher side, and I don't know if he had found that slick style yet, but by the time Volume 2 comes around, boy, oh boy, it's overwhelmingly good. It's always good to watch your stream, Eric. I've missed your art streams. They're peaceful and relaxing to watch. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. Look at me all zoomed in. Freaking not necessary. Also, this umbrella is like really way off. Because if you think about how a person holds an umbrella, right? This umbrella would literally be going through his skull. So I need to move it over because that bugs me. Yeah, that's the thing that I get hung up on, is the umbrella. You know, forget all the stupid detail, but this umbrella better work in real life. Can you guys see that okay? How close I am to that stupid face? That's so dumb and so unnecessary. Also, it'd be really awesome if I knew how many spokes came out of an umbrella, instead of just doing some weird fantasy. I feel like in any artist's journey, especially if they continue down the path of refining their craft, I always feel like eventually they end up going simple. For whatever reason, like if they start off super detailed and super like intense when it comes to how they render stuff, whether it be painting or black and white, or whether it be in ink or comics, I feel like inevitably they end up going like super simple. I don't know why that is. I think maybe it's just, for me, it's because I'm lazy. So it starts off super intense, and then like eventually they just switch over into like the basics, you know, like, or the essentials, I should say. Am I missing anything? Do most comic artists do their own lettering? Not that I know of. That hasn't been done in a long, long time. There's some that do. No one that reads comics is counting umbrella spokes. Yeah, well, that's a very good point. It's just for me. I'd like to know. Me personally. See? Me and Delano. How are you, Hockey? Good evening. Thank you for being here. Don't you just like knowing the technical nuance of something? Like, I don't know, I remember the last time I had to draw a bicycle, and it really bugged me that I didn't know how many spokes were in the, how many spokes that were in the, the wheels themselves, right? And so I had to go find out. And that took me to the nature of being on the internet and looking stuff up is you go down the rabbit hole of like, oh, so that's how they make that. Oh, so that's how they make bicycle spokes. Which, that's how you know I've turned into my stepfather. Because that's the kind of shit that he was into back in the day. I think there was a whole generation of people, one of whom happened to be my stepdad, where he just liked knowing how things work, right? Is that still a thing? Because when I first came to the United States, that was a very big deal. We're talking about around the era of Stranger Things, you know? Where people were actually genuinely curious, maybe because it was a lot easier to figure out how things worked than it is now. For instance, Saturdays, and this is going to date me in a very, very big way, so whatever. But like Saturdays were made for hanging out with my pals and writing out exactly like Stranger Things, like hanging out in different parks or just like hanging out by the friggin' river, looking to hopefully not get into trouble, but also trying to discover, hey, where does that tunnel go? Where does that storm drain go? There's also that scene in It. So whenever I see a storm drain, when I saw that storm drain in It, I'm all like, that's exactly the kind of shit that I got into as a kid. Anyway, as I was driving along, as we would head out to wherever it is we were about to have weekend adventures in, right? We'd inevitably pass by people's garages and see that everyone's working on their cars. You know what I mean? So like, they'd have the hoods open and like one of the, I don't know what those things are called, but it's like the metal arm that takes the engine block out of the front part of the car, right? And that was always the thing that I would see as a kid. I was like, all of these dudes or dads working on their cars or be inside their garages putting together something electronic with stuff that they got from the local Radio Shack, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, there's an era of that, of people generally doing their own repairs or like discovering how something works so they take it apart and put it back together again. I don't see that as much these days. First of all, because I don't know if that's in our national spirit anymore as Americans. But more importantly, I don't think things are meant to be taken apart and put back together anymore. Like this one time, my cousin's husband just got himself a restored Eldorado. I envy him so much for that. But he popped the engine, or he popped the the hood open, and we look inside, and it's like 7 parts, It's like 7 things that I knew. I'm looking at it going like, yeah, I know what that is. I know what that is. I know what that is, right? You pop open the hood to my car now, and everything in there is just jam-packed. There's no open real estate. Like you can look into the where the engine block is in the Eldorado, and you can see the garage floor because there's space, But you open up trunk now, or you open up a hood now, and you're like, I don't know where anything is. Everything is computers. So anyway, I think that's where I kind of want to know that. I kind of want to know how they make tires. I want to know how many spokes there are in an umbrella. Why 8 and not 10, Things like that. Nerd shit. There are 8? Okay. I'm fine. Thank you. How are you doing? I'm well. Thank you, Hockey. Thank you for asking. I will sleep better. Absolutely. Knowing that there are 8, I'm into it. I can't fix anything. My brother was telling me today the power grid will eventually go out, and I was like, well, I'm going to... That was the good old days. Need a time machine. Yeah, I don't know. I relive portions of my childhood when there was a trend of showing or, taking a snapshot of the 80s like Stranger Things. I was like, oh yeah, I remember being a kid. I don't know why people gravitated to that show so much when there was no relatability to them at all. Like, I can't imagine a Netflix watching audience understanding what those kids were all about and doing the kinds of things that they were doing. That's like so far removed from their understanding of life. You know what I mean? Like, not one of them had a cell phone. Not one of them, accessed social media. It was a bunch of kids hanging out, Like, I don't know why Stranger Things appealed to so many people and it became the phenomenon that it is, because it's damn near unrelatable to, I think, their target audience. So, I don't know. It's weird. I mean, I understand why. It's because the science fiction nature of it, but it's like, it's not as if we haven't seen science fiction before. Why is Stranger Things suddenly like, oh, this awesome phenomenon? And I know why the creators sort of tapped into it the way they did, but it's hard for me to fathom who they thought their audience was going to be with that show. And that's something that pops into my head all the time whenever I'm working on a book, most especially now, like Athena, right? I know that there is, I don't want to say this renaissance. I don't want to say that there's this, I think it's more of a trend that people are producing books that harken back to a small time in, or in an era in comic books that people have a really fond association, almost a nostalgic connection to, right? And so I thought, like, if there is going to be a deluge of that, what is, oh gosh, I want to remember this project. Is it called 94? I just saw it and I thought to myself, like, geez Louise, look how perfectly captured that is of that era of, like, that 90s grit comics. And I spent a lot of time thinking about whether or not I was going to 100% tap into that era the same way that book does. Forgive me, I don't know what the exact name of it is. But, like, and then I decided I don't think I should, because it first of all, there's already people doing it. And then secondly, I don't think I would represent it very well, right? So instead, I went one step, even, one more era back, which is why I landed in that perfect Chris Claremont time of, like, old school X-Men. And I know there's people out there who don't care for the X-Men. Totally cool. I understand. Everybody's got their own personal taste. But when it comes to me, I'm like telling good over the top adventures of, like, stuff that makes you go, like, oh, holy crap, I don't think, how are they going to get out of that now? That was, for me, is what I'm trying to capture with Athena. And those sets of books that are more 90s Wildcats driven are really super big, bombastic, and just like a visual experience. But I don't know if they understood how to capture character, because I don't think that's what they were there for, right? I mean, I don't know if that's a super harsh criticism, but everybody who's read those kinds of books, those books from back in the day, weren't there to develop character. They were there to like throw as much rendering information to your face, you know? So anyway. '94 by Shelby Robinson. Yeah, I saw pages and images of that. I'm like, holy crap, talk about a time machine. They just know what, he knew what to do, you know? Oh, hello, Dex. How are you, man? It's so great to see you, dude. I feel like it's been 20 years since I've seen your smiling face at a show. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and visit. Thank you, thank you. I hope you're doing well. I haven't seen, oh my gosh, I haven't seen your name pop up. I haven't collected comic books, but oftentimes the way that I would get caught up with what you were doing is by visiting your table at shows when I could. Folks, Dexter Vines is this amazing illustrator and inker, and if I ran off every credit that he's ever, of books that he's ever worked on in history, I think I would run out of streaming time. Or it would be a very, very long piece of paper, but he's one of the first guys that I'd run into in the comic book industry that made time for me to talk to me about anything and everything art related. And he is, how do I say this? He is one of those guys that I hold as a personal example when it comes to engaging with people when he's at shows. He is, I don't know if Dexter ever sits down when he's at a convention. He's always in engaging mode, you know, like fans coming by the booth, chit-chatting with him. He talks to them about anything and everything. And oftentimes, like when I walk by his booth, I see the people that are gathered around him. And he has that kind of personality. You know, he just draws people to him, you know, very warm, very inviting. Come over here, I'll talk to you about anything. When I walk by his booth, I'm hesitant to go over there and say hi because I don't want to be the asshole that's like, oh, I know you're talking to this 6 people, but I know you, so we should, I didn't want to be that dude, you know, like, hey, I'm going to cut in front of the line so you and I can chit chat. I always do my best to, like, if I make eye contact with him, totally cool, maybe he'll say hi, but oftentimes, again, when he's talking to you, you're his entire world, and that I think that's really beneficial for fan engagement, right? I think that's the reason why people really are drawn to him, you know? And so in trying to avoid being disrespectful to the people who were there before me, I almost feel like, and then he'll see me walk by and he'll be like, Eric, where the heck are you going? And I always come off like I didn't want to talk to him. You know, it always comes off as like, oh, I'm avoiding you right now. But man, I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, Dexter has a group of people in front of his table, and I am not the guy to cut in front of them and take up more of his time. But all that said, thank you so much, Dexter. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you dropping by. Hello, Michael DeNicola. Welcome. How are you? Checks in the mail. Get out of here. You're one of the good guys, dude. Thank you so much for always making time for me. I appreciate that. I mean, you want to talk about just a prolific body of work, a prolific style. I don't think, Dex, is there ever a guy in your recent history, maybe not even as recent, but have you ever run into a penciler that you're working with where you're like, I have no idea what to do? Have you ever done that? Have you ever gotten in like a set of pages where you're like, oh, holy shit, I'm in trouble? Because I've seen the guys that you've inked, and I'm like, every single time it's on brand. You know, it's never dominated, right? It's never like, oh, there's some guys, and I'm not making fun of him at all, but Kevin Nolan is notorious for doing this. Like, if Kevin Nolan inks you, you're going to end up looking like Kevin Nolan, right? Like, but with stuff that kind of looks like you, right? But Dexter is so good. And I don't know if I don't know. I'd like to hear from him to be like, well, when I got these pages from this guy, you know, I just didn't know what to do with it. Oh, for sure. Okay. Jeez, man. I don't know how that's possible since you're so damn good. There's never been a time when I've seen your work associated with a book where I go, oh, Dexter didn't know what to do. Like, he is overwhelmed by this guy, and I think he's just playing catch up. Not once. Everything always has a great polish to it, man. And I want to recall, and maybe I'm not recollecting or recalling this well, but did you have health issues that you managed to, and you don't have to say yes or no if this is like none of anybody's business, I totally understand, but I could have sworn that I had heard you had gone through some health issues, but now you're on the mend and you're well on your way back. Anyway. Great show, Mr. Kennedy. East Coast here, headed to bed. Have a good night, William. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and company. I really, really appreciate it. Eddie Winkler, how are you? Thank you for keeping Giuliano busy with me. If I can, I'm going to throw that guy. Excuse me. If I can, I'm going to throw that guy so much work. But thank you for keeping him busy. In regards to what the best piece of advice you've ever been given. Crap, man. Oh, this is in reference to the question that you asked earlier, right? The best piece of advice that I've ever been given. In recent times, and this may not be immediately available to you right now because sometimes you have to build on a career in order to be able to pull the trigger on something like this. And I can't quite remember, it's Mike Mignola that told me. But this is always relevant, okay? Invest in yourself. As much as you possibly can, invest in yourself. And that oftentimes speaks to very different things depending on where you are in your career, right? But some people, or at least in my case, I had it in my head that I must always work on other people's properties because that seemed to be super exciting. And then one day I woke up and I was like, this isn't fun anymore. And I'm not throwing any sort of shade on people who really, really love working on IPs that don't belong to them. Makes total sense. What to do with it? They're doing the thing that brings them joy. I'm on board, right? But for me, I was like, I don't think I can do that anymore because I'm not having fun doing that for some other people. There's a reason why I am, even when I'm tired and there's like a freaking ice storm, that just hit my city and I'm out of power for a week, that I was trying to find a way to get power to this iPad so I can continuously work on these pages and not skip a beat, is because this is an investment for me and that I'm so much more invested in getting it done, And I don't know if I would have that same sort of like fervor if it was for like something for somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, it means so much to me to be able to do this because it's me, and that sounds really super, super selfish, but I think that's part and parcel of what you have to do, what the brain, the level of mind that you have to get into when you're saying, I'm going to start investing in myself from here on down. So I'm looking at this. Yeah, go look at his IG, man. That thing is humbling. Cancer, but getting better. Man, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Glad to hear you're doing better and continuing to improve. Yeah, that climb back must have been heck for you, brother, but thank you for being here. Thanks for the awesome answer. No problem. All right, I'm going to see if I can finish this panel. Can I finish this panel? Yeah, I can finish this panel. This panel should be easy. I just jinxed it. I just said this panel should be easy, and it's not going to be easy. And here's the other thing. One more one more set of kind words for Dex. Like, you see me doing this stuff digitally, and it's basically trying to emulate what my line work would look like. Dexter has some of the most clean inking lines I've ever seen in my life. And I think that is the reason, his level of proficiency, efficiency, and professionalism is the reason why he is still a working professional today. No, I don't think the industry will ever outgrow the kind of the quality of body of work that he produces, man. All right, that's enough. That's enough sunshine. That panel's not, don't jinx me right now. Don't jinx me right now, Unhinged. We're going to assume that I didn't say that, and we're just going to say I finished this panel. Hey, how are you doing, Mike? I didn't see you streaming today, and I thought like, oh, Mike never streams on Wednesdays. But guess what? It's not Wednesday. It's Monday. I hope you're okay. Oh, by the way, two people I want you to pay attention to. One, I just said his name. His name is Michael DiNicola, one of my closest, dearest friends. If I ever get into trouble, Mike is the one that led me there. Anyway, and I mean like online streaming trouble. Anytime that you see me endeavoring to do something different, something new, it's rare that I came up on that with that shit on my own. It's Mike that led me there. But if you would be so kind as to go and follow him on his YouTube channel. I know he's trying to build momentum for it right now, and he's well on his way, but any little bit helps. So if you can go to youtube.com/Michael DiNicola, give him a good follow, that would be amazing. The other one is my near and dear friend, Bellatrix, Kate. Kate streams on Twitch, and I know some of you have an allergic reaction. You Twitch at Twitch, but if you happen to have a Twitch account and you find it in your hearts to go follow her, that would be amazing. That'd be a great big deal for me. I appreciate that. You will finish this panel. Thank you. I dig how the bottom of the coat is kind of muddy, and all you can tell it is wet. That's attention to detail. Oh yeah, who did I steal that from? I stole that technique from my dear good friend and my mentor, Dave Johnson. I'm rarely original in the way I render anything, and by the time I've taken it from somebody who is a much better draftsman than me, I disseminated it to the point where sometimes it doesn't even make sense anymore. But there you go. That's who I totally stole that from. My good friend, my good mentor, Dave Johnson. Now, I don't know where he stole it from. All right, you understand that there's people standing at this funeral, right? You get it? I don't have to render more. Another thing that I get a good laugh whenever I catch Mike streaming is that sometimes he'll do what I just did right now and go into his brush palettes for Procreate. By the way, he streams digitally as well. But he'll go into his brush palettes for Procreate, and like the fucking thing is like a mile long. Like he'll hit this button and it's like and it just keeps going. And I asked him once, like, do you use all those brushes? He's like, nah. No, I don't use those brushes. Not all of them. And I'm all like, I get it. I'm into it. I understand. You're one of those guys that it's like, just in case. One day, I will use that brush. And then it will be at the ready. Those are people? Yeah. Kinda? Kinda? They're icons of people? They're drawings of people? They're not actual people? All right, this umbrella is going to bug me because I don't know what I meant to do with it in the first place. So that's the part that I really get annoyed with myself, because when I'm doing the roughs, and I know it's going to be very particular when it comes to the final execution of the image, right? I know I'm going to need to clean that up eventually. Why don't I, question is rhetorical, but why don't I spend a little bit more time doing what I'm doing now, which is making it a tighter drawing, rather than assuming, I'll fix that in post later. You know what I mean? Like, why don't I just take the time to render it as tightly as I just did? Because it just saves me time later on. It's because I have the attention span of a gnat. Is that what it is? I think so. Am I using an iPad? The answer is yes. Yes, because I am under the gun based on a personal deadline that I've established for myself for this book. So anything that I can do to speed up my production pipeline, I'm totally on board for. Was it you and me, Mike, that was discussing, going full digital via iPad? Was it you who I was inspired by to go into full on digital pipeline? I don't recall. I'll see a couple. I can't remember what I was watching recently, and somebody in chat asked them, like, what are you working on right now as an artist? Shoot, I can't remember. But they held up the page that they were working on, and for a brief second, I thought, like, oh, how quaint, traditional. Thanks for another great stream. Good night, everyone. Good night, man. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm actually getting stuff done. I think it's Mike being here. The good luck charm, I like to call him. That looks dumb. See, jinxed already. Jinxed. How do I do this so that it looks like water? Properties of water. It looks like... Got it. Is that it? Nope. One more time. One more time, I'll get this. What I should do is just render it like a regular umbrella. And then... Yeah, okay, that's better. And then add the water effects thereafter. That makes more sense. Yep. Yep. Me streaming and drawing, I know we had conversations about this before, but I hope this is really okay, because this is the only way I can stay on top of these deadlines for this book and for you guys. I really want to maintain some level of excitement for this book, and I know it's a long haul. You know, like if you think about when it is right now, we're nearing the end of February, and the thing isn't scheduled to launch until sometime in August. So this thing is really a marathon. And the last thing I'd want to do is, first of all, lose any sort of awareness momentum. But then secondly, I don't want to, have it be lingering around so much that people kind of get bored of it. It's those things that I have to sort of negotiate. Like, oh man, are people going to be bored with this before it even comes out? I hope not. And one of the things that I can do to maintain, that sucks. One of those things that I can do to maintain at least what I hope to be long-term interest is to show you guys that I'm finishing the book as I go along. Or, I'm finishing the book in a timely manner. You know what? I'm going to get over this umbrella. I'm over it. See what I mean? See the stuff that I get hung up on? Stupid rainy umbrella. Which is probably fine the first 3 times that I did it. Yeesh, why did that take so long? Are you guys getting the added benefit of my ASMR pencil rendering? I don't know if that's coming through the microphone. Do you use pre-created color palettes when you work? No, who the heck does that? Losers? That looks dumb. You sound like me when I'm drawing. 100%. I always say that. Neil, how are you? Do you think YouTube is a better platform for streaming art? That remains to be seen, Neil. What I do know is that the barrier to entry is a whole lot thinner than it was when it comes to watching people stream than it was when I was streaming on Twitch. And I know that there is a more concentrated community who has all collectively have a level of awareness that there is art streaming going on Twitch. But when I'm talking about a potential audience that I can bring in independent of Twitch, I think that the barrier to entry is a lot more accessible here on YouTube, because I can put up something like youtube.com/Eric Kennedy and people kind of know what they're getting into. With twitch.tv/Eric Kennedy, I'm not sure people kind of understand what that is yet, at least in the more sort of like normie sense, you know? So, and I think that's the reason why I opted to stream on YouTube when I started streaming again, as opposed to on Twitch. I've gotten really pretty dang amazing and positive response. So I think this was for me, a more worthwhile endeavor. Now, I can't say that for everyone, but I do know for me it worked out. Or at least it feels more comfortable, more accessible. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Oops. It always rains in funerals and movies. That's right. Always. Why do you think I use that immediate cipher for you to understand, like, you know, hey, it always rains? I mean, it makes a ton of sense, right? Why is that not... Oh. How have I distinctly remember, or I can that's a lie. I think I recall you streaming in the past. No, Neil? Am I misremembering? Was that another somebody? I must be misremembering. But I feel like that's true. You have not streamed, okay. What am I thinking about? Maybe that's just like something I'm wishing for. Hey, that freaking worked. I can't believe it. All right, good enough for now. I don't want to think about it. Yep. Okay. Do I need this? Let me see. Yes? No. Yes? No. Yes? No. Yes? I'll think about it. Okay. Okay, last panel. How much time do I have? About 15 minutes. It was you streamed. Oh, right on. Neil used to hang out on Twitch. Ah, your internet can't handle it. Oh, that sucks. At one point, when I was putting my internet through the paces, and Mike can attest to this, but like, at one point I didn't think that my internet could handle it either. It was going to be bad for a while, especially in contrast to the kind of, what were we looking at? Mike was showing me his upload speeds, and it was friggin' bonkers. And I thought, like, well, no wonder your stuff comes in so clean. You're a big fan of rain distorting. Thank you so much. Hour and 44. We're not doing too bad. Okay, what did I mean to do here? What was the intent of these pages? Oh man, what am I gonna do? Oh, okay. I think I know what to do. You know, I don't know if my buddy John Moore is around, but he wanted me to do a demo of like, yeah, I have about 15 minutes, so I'll call that page. I'll get back to that page later, but there's a scene in here when is it this one? Nope. Oh no, it's the first page. So there's a scene in here where I'm drawing just like flim-flammy buildings. You know what I mean? Like where I'm drawing buildings in perspective, and my buddy John Moore was asking me. He was asking me to like do a demo of how I draw these buildings. So if you guys want, I can show like this is what it looks like without the characters in front of it. Flim flam razzle dazzle. I'm into it, man. Okay, so I can show you how I did this on Procreate if you guys have a second. I have about 15 minutes. So let me just demo what that looks like really, really quickly. Uh-oh. What was I doing here? Delete. 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 Okay. So let's say that I'm setting up a building shot. And by the way, I'm going to use a really great sheet for when it comes to finding where your vanishing lines go to. Finding where your vanishing lines go to. I mean, there is a tool in Procreate that actually does this. Mike knows where that that perspective tool is. I don't use it. Not because I'm too cool for it, but because I'm too lazy to figure it out. Okay, so imagine for a moment that I want to find where all the perspective lines are going to be in this building in regards to this vanishing point that's disappearing off of my page somewhere, like which is like going way off screen, right? So what I do, is that first I figure out the farthest end. If this is a vanishing point that's way off screen up top, right? I find out the farthest farthest edge that leads to that vanishing point, let's say on the right-hand side of the image. In regards to this building, it's the building's edge right here, right? This edge disappears, right, to that vanishing point. I then find the farthest edge on the opposite side going to that same vanishing point, and in this building in specific, it's this edge of the building, right? This corner, this edge of the building. So I then say, okay, I'm going to draw a straight line, and I don't have to connect it to the vanishing point. I just have to draw that straight line representing the edge of that building, right? Then I bisect everything down the middle, right? So, and by finding the median, right? So, for instance, I think it's better for me to just show you. So see where the point is that I'm drawing on this edge of this building, all disappearing to that same vanishing point. I then find the opposite edge of the building going to that same vanishing point. And the median between these 2 points is somewhere right around here, correct? Right? That's where the middle is. I go to that same exact edge further down as it becomes wider in the angle, right? And I find the edge there, and I find another point in the opposite edge, and somewhere in between is here, like somewhere right here. That's the median between these two dots, right? And I draw a line that goes to I draw a line that goes to those two dots that I've established based on where it is in the middle, right? And I keep doing that, right, until I have my perspective grid set up. Does that make sense? So here's the middle, or here's one edge, here's one edge, here's the middle, here's one edge, here's one edge, here's the middle. And I just keep drawing it until I have my perspective grid set up. And conceptually, all of these lines leading off page will go to that super far away vanishing point. Does that make sense? Cool? Okay. Now that I know that, and see how off I was on that corner? Yeesh. What a dumb. Now, this won't be 100% accurate as opposed to if you were to use that vanishing, that perspective tool in Procreate, but I don't want to deal with it, especially because you don't necessarily, I'm not building I'm not making a real building that needs to stand up. I just need to convince you enough that it's a upshot on a building. What do I need to make it super accurate for? Now, the interesting thing about that perspective tool in Procreate is that you can program it so that, and Mike, you correct me if I'm wrong, you can program it in such a way that it snaps to the edges of that's poor. It snaps to the edge of the perspective grid, or in the lines on the perspective grid, correct? Okay. And so similar for here, like if I were to, add another layer, and let's choose another color, whether it be purple. Here's the edge of this building, right? All going to the vanishing point to the left-hand side of the image, or the right-hand side of the image now. And here's the top edge of this building, right? And I find the median between the two that's still within the page, like this. Oop, like this. And I run the line, right? How much time do I have? About 10 minutes. Cool? So there you go. That's how I find that. And similar to, I don't know, let me pick another color. That way you can track it pretty easily. So here's the outer edge of this vanishing point that's going to the left-hand side of the image. And here's the edge of that building going to the same exact vanishing point. And I just start bisecting it. Go right down the middle. Right? And so it's already off. But you get the idea, right? Or you can do what Michael Denicola does and use that damn perspective tool. Anyway. So what do I do in regards to this building? Let's assume for a minute that, let me go back to that red layer, right? That I'm trying to account for these faces. That's one. right? Here's the other face. Right? And typically, a building, the face as far as like the windows are concerned on any building, only ever have one design, right? You're not going to find like on the north face of the building, you're going to like, it's in this case, let's say this is north facing, right? Right? Like you're not going to find like one set of window designs on the north facing building and then on the east facing side, right? You're like going to find a different kind of window design. That doesn't make any sense. Most buildings all have one design wrapped around it like a giant sticker. And besides, in as far as it's like whether or not it's realistic is not what we're trying to go for. It just needs to be believable. And so, okay, I'm going to turn, I'm going to just ramp, I'm going to turn all of this off. And from here, I'll show you what I do, how I design the building faces, right? And this is one way, it's not the only way, but now the great thing about Procreate is that by running a line vertically and running a line like horizontally, and by holding it, it straightens out the line for you. There's a more accurate way to make sure that this is actually going perfectly horizontal and perfectly vertical at level at 90 degrees, but I'm showing the rough and tumble version of it. Okay, here we go. This is literally me eyeballing the essential shape of the face of the building, right? Whoops. This is just a really super rough how I would render some of these buildings in the far background where I don't want to think about like, oh yeah, it's super realistic and that doesn't, you know, that doesn't look like anything that's real in the real world. I don't care. Okay. It seems a little tedious, but it's a lot better than actually trying to draw the buildings directly onto the image, and I'll show you why. Now, this has the distinct technique is a distinct advantage of me being able to do it in Procreate, but it's doable in a lot of different other what do you call it, programs, digital programs like Photoshop or what have you. Assuming that the light source is there. Okay, I'll do the light source or the bevels of the buildings later, but okay. Whoops. Again, this is super rough and super quick because I'm paying attention to the time and I really need to be off in about 3 minutes. Okay, here we go. All right, so there's our, what do you call it, right? Now I'm going to turn this part of the drawing back on, right? So I want to accommodate this building face to that, what do you call it? I want to accommodate this detail of the building to that building face. Now the great thing about Procreate is that once I establish that into a layer, I can just literally move it into place. And I'm using the windows as a point of reference to where the perspective grid goes. Onto the building itself. Does that make sense? Easy peasy. Does that make sense to everyone? And then just duplicate the build. I just duplicate the, what do you call it? And then move it over. Whoops. Excuse me. As long as it's in the grid that I established for the blue side, or the purple side, then everything should work pretty nicely, pretty conveniently. Does that make sense? Easy peasy. Is there a duplication shortcut? Yeah. There you go. And that's effectively what I did for a lot of these buildings on this page. I would just build the section that I need, like you guys said, it's like a texture map, and I just go like, oh, I'm going to keep moving these around. And then the final touches would be like adding the shadow in the upper left-hand corner when this building is casting it, Really super easy. Really, really super easy. Cool. Look at that. Exactly 10 o'clock. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I'll be back next Monday. If you're not already doing so, please follow me on my social media. You can find me on Instagram and on Twitter under Eric Kennedy, twitter.com/Eric Kennedy, Instagram.com/Eric Kennedy. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please do so. Hit that notification bell so you know the next time that I stream. I'm going to try to get back into doing the time lapses, but I'm not sure how soon I will be able to do that. Probably not until mid-March, only because I'm playing catch-up due to that freak ice storm. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, at least for me, wonderful Monday evening. I don't know where you guys are in the world, but have a great day. And I will talk to you guys later. I'm going to hit this finish button now. Good night.